Welcome back to Yahoo Finance, everyone. Uber stock soared today on news that it will now allow riders in New York City to book taxi rides directly through its app. Now, Uber has faced mounting opposition from taxis over the years for taking a large share of its customers in the city. Well, taxi hailing apps Curb and Creative Mobile Technologies will now integrate their software with Uber, allowing users to skip the usual street hailing. Uber plans to roll out the feature this spring. CEO Dara Khosrowshahi said last month that Uber plans to extend the taxi option to cities outside of New York. Well, according to the American Public Transportation Association, nearly 50% of Americans don't have access to public transportation. Our next guest might just have the solution. James Cox, the routing company's CEO, joins me now. So, James, how does the routing company aim to fill some of the gaps left by traditional public transportation as well as existing transit?
Yes, so good to see you today, by the way. The routing company ultimately partners with cities to power the future of public transit. We do that through providing riders with an on-demand transit solution that can take them to parts of the city that are previously inaccessible. Ultimately, we'll make core transit routes stronger doing this, which is pretty awesome. And for riders, it's kind of like push a button, get a shuttle, right? I think it's quite interesting, the news today on taxis and Uber. Ultimately, what we are competing against is single occupancy vehicle trips here. We want to reduce the number of vehicles required to carry around the same number of people conveniently.
And you were previously the head of global product at Uber. So talk about that journey from there to now becoming the CEO of the routing company, and as well as this recent $15 million in Series A financing that was led by climate investment platform Galvanize Climate Solutions.
Yeah, so ultimately, I originally helped start Uber in Australia and moved to Uber's headquarters in late 2014, 2015. I was part of the team that built Uber Pool and scaled that around the world. Ultimately, we were trying to do something great with Uber Pool, but Uber Pool failed for two reasons. One is strategy, and the other is technology. From a strategy perspective, we competed with cities. And ultimately, I now do not think that is the right approach. Since then, there was a breakthrough in technology at MIT that allows us to do something far more convenient for riders while still being super efficient, right? So being able to pick you up quickly and take you where you want to go with 18 people on the bus instead of a couple of people. To your point on our funding, I think climate tech is coming, and ultimately filling cities with single occupancy vehicle trips is one approach to giving riders convenience, but it does not give efficiency, right? And it has huge costs to the climate. Galvanize, led by Tom Steyer and Veery Maxwell, who's joining our board, I think is really validating for the solution we have here, which is ultimately deeply rooted in university research and now paired with some people who've done this before.
And when you look at the number of trips taken just in the US, 34 million times each weekday people board public transportation, according to the APTA. But obviously you have health and safety restrictions that came in with COVID. You had supply chain bottlenecks, and obviously now high gas prices as well. Now, we did see some companies passing those costs on to drivers. How have you been adapting to these headwinds, and how costly has that been for your company?
Yeah, okay, so let's just, ultimately we doubled down on public transit in February 2020. 2020, that's right. The reason we did that is public transit still needs to move in a pandemic. People who use public transit still need to use it whether it's a pandemic or not. A lot of the private ride-sharing companies in the world shut down shared ride services, right? And so ultimately, coming out of COVID, I think there's three key trends that really matter here. We're getting COVID under wraps. Oil prices are going up, which means people need to be thoughtful about this. And with people coming back to work, we need to find both efficient and convenient ways of moving people. The world is pretty good at efficient ways of moving people with fixed route buses and trains, but they're not always super convenient, right? And on the flip side, you have people taking single occupancy vehicle trips or Uber, Lyft, taxi rides, which fill cities with vehicles, right? We're trying to slot in the middle there and provide a convenient and efficient ride in higher capacity vehicles, and to work with cities to do that.
And obviously, we've seen a lot of ride-hailing companies like Uber sort of adapt and expand, include other offerings, things like food and other special partnerships. How do you see the future of ride-sharing evolving, and what do you see your company's role in it?
Yeah, so I believe there's always going to be a place for ride sharing and single occupancy convenient trips, right? What I think our place will be is, given the breakthrough in technology at MIT that has really driven what we're doing, we're able to provide hyper efficient and convenient shared routing of either people or things, right? And so you see a range of different things developing in this space. We are definitely going to be trying to make on-demand transit led by cities, leaders within cities who genuinely are concerned about climate change, reducing congestion, reducing vehicle emissions, right? Giving them technology that they previously didn't have to enable them to fight these problems, right? And to do so in a way that's convenient for society. Ultimately, I think this technology will be a part of the transit mix, right? If you think about how people move around, it's either in single occupancy vehicles, it's in ride sharing or taxi, it's in buses and trains. There needs to be an option that can increase coverage for the huge number of Americans and people around the world without access to transit, right? And also make those core bus and train and ferry routes stronger by connecting them to them better.